Welcome to Read Between the Lines, a book podcast. I am your host, Molly Southgate, and today I'm interviewing
Samantha Downing.
Hey there, how are you today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on. This is going to be really fun. So can you tell me about your books?
Yes, I write thrillers, and the next one coming out is For Your Own Good, which is out on July 20th. And my thrillers are a little bit crazy, a little bit tongue-in-cheek, a little bit sarcastic. There's definitely dark humor in all of my books. They're not bleak or depressing or too heavy. So this one, For Your Own Good, it takes place at Belmont Academy, which is a private high school in the Northeast. And Teddy Crutcher has just been named Teacher of the Year. In his opinion, it's about time. And he knows exactly what his students need to learn, and he knows how to teach them if only everyone else would get out of his way. And that's pretty much where it starts. He has a problem with a student named Zach Ward, who is another main character in the book. And the story goes from there.
Yeah, and I have to say, and I know I said this to you before we started doing the interview, but I love this book so much. And you're right, it wasn't bleak, because I love thrillers, but a lot of them sometimes are bleak. And this was not, like, the entire time, it was so much fun. And there were times where I was like audibly gasping when I was getting to certain sections, and I would be like, oh, there's a twist. There's another thing going on. There's so many different layers to it. It was so excellent.
Thank you so much. I try to surprise people, and it's always a game with thriller writers and thriller readers. Thriller readers are very sophisticated. They read a lot of thrillers. They look for the twists. They know what they're looking for. So I feel like there's always a little thing going. There's always a personal thing between the author and the reader, and you don't want to disappoint them, but you also have to earn your twists. Your twist can't be cheap and can't come out of nowhere. So, but if they don't figure it out, it's great.
Yes. These were the kind, well, I know at least for me, my favorite kind of twists and thrillers, and which is what was here, was when you don't see it coming. And then when you look back at the rest of the book, you completely see it. Exactly. And that's how I felt with almost all of the twists in this. I was like, completely took me off guard. And then I was like, wait a minute, I didn't see any of the signs.
Exactly. Or you didn't pick up on them. And the real sophisticated readers are looking for any sign of something that will come up. My writing is pretty sparse. I don't put a lot in there that's not unnecessary. So if I say something like, I put the photograph in the drawer of the desk, somebody's going to remember that and say that photograph is in the drawer in the desk, and that's important. I think the key to a good twist is to do something they don't expect with that. So yes, I'm going to bring up that photograph again, but hopefully in a way that you did not think was coming. So you may see the clue, but you may not know what the final outcome is.
Definitely. So what interested you in thrillers as a genre?
I read them growing up. My whole family read them. So they were a genre that was always around the house. The early John Grisham, Michael Crichton, Clive Cussler, all of those old thrillers that most are still writing today. But this is the kind of thing my family read. So when I started writing, I didn't write thrillers. I wrote all different kinds of genres and explored a lot of them, and sort of came full circle back to thriller, because it's the genre I read the most. And I really do love the thriller genre. When Gone Girl came out, that created a whole new subgenre of what we call domestic thriller or domestic suspense. I think of that genre as a genre where none of the main characters are law enforcement. So you don't have detective chasing serial killer or CIA agent or FBI agent or profiler or what have you. And it created an opening, at least for me, to write thrillers, because I'm not in law enforcement and I don't have that kind of expertise, and I wouldn't try to fake it. I would have to do an immense amount of research to be able to write a main character that was a detective. So that I don't think My Lovely Wife, my first novel, would have happened without Gone Girl. It certainly wouldn't have been published, and I might not have even thought of writing it if not for the whole genre that came after Gone Girl, with The Girl on the Train and Mary Kubica's books, and just a whole flood of mainly female writers, which is great. There's so many wonderful female thriller and suspense writers now that were not out there before.
Definitely, yes. Can you actually tell me a little bit more about your book, My Lovely Wife? Because I had heard of that one. I just had not picked it up to read it yet. But it's like, I know that it's in production right now for something like Amazon. Like it's very exciting.
My Lovely Wife, yes, that is about a couple who has been married for 15 years. They have 2 teenage kids, and they live in the suburbs in a gated community. They're a regular suburban American couple. It's in Florida, and they get bored. And so they become serial killers. And they kill people. It's written entirely from the perspective of the husband, and he takes you through the story of what happens. So as you can see, it's very tongue in cheek, and I poke a lot of fun at suburban life and keeping up with the Joneses and all that kind of thing. So it was a lot of fun to write, and a lot of fun to see. So many people like it. It's so dark that it's when you're reading about people who are serial killers, I mean, that's a dark thing to read about. So I'm glad that so many people liked it, although it's a little disturbing. I wasn't sure how many, people would really. It doesn't have your typical hero protagonist at all. So.
Yeah, like the book, please don't relate to the book.
Right, exactly. And I have had a lot of people saying, I should not have liked this book that much. They feel a little bit guilty for liking the books as much as that they had so much fun with it. So, and then they say, oh, that was so dark though. I shouldn't have. Why do I like that so much? So that's it's fun to get people's responses.
Yes, kind of off of that, like that I should not have liked this book that much. Can we talk a little bit about like how you created characters like that? Because especially from what I was reading For Your Own Good, pretty much all of the characters do illegal things throughout the whole book. But I found myself like picking favorites and wanting certain ones, like rooting for people. And like, it's like, well, this person's a murderer. Well, like, so can you tell me a little bit more about your process with that? Sure.
Definitely all my characters are in the morally gray area, if not the pitch black area of psychopath. So I think the key to creating a character that is like, say, Teddy, and Teddy Crutcher is basically a sociopath or a psychopath, is that they have their own belief system. They lie to themselves. They're self-delusional, but their belief system, they are 100% in all the time. They do not deviate from that. So what Teddy believes, he absolutely believes with all his heart. Now, the reader may be able to see the flaws in that thinking, but he cannot see the flaws in that thinking. So it's not that he's psychotic. He's definitely in this world, but he has what he believes his students need to learn, and he believes he is teaching them the correct way to do it or to learn what they need to learn. And everything that he does is for his students, and he wholeheartedly believes this is all for them. It is all for their own good. So I think the key for me when I'm creating a character that's that off the reservation, is that they need to believe, and that they have to. I can't break from that at any point. They can't see outside themselves. So in order for a reader to believe it, they have to be on that journey with them and be in their head. Now, For Your Own Good is written from multiple points of view, so it's not just Teddy. There are other characters whose head you get into, and they all do sketchy things, and some sketchier than others, and some worse than others. But I don't like to create someone who is all good, because no one is all good. Everybody does something wrong every single day. Probably most of us exceed the speed limit. So we all break the law every single day. It's just a matter of degree at that point. How much further, what other things we do that break the law, or that are more, every day people lie. Small lies. How are you doing? I'm great. Maybe you're not great. You're lying. So it's literally just a matter of degree.
And I think that's so fascinating. And like sometimes the lies, like in the book, can be much, much bigger. But then you also have them turn around and it's like, oh, it's just a little lie. Like you see them kind of justifying it, each character justifying their individual actions. And some of them even know they're wrong.
Yes. And they do it anyway. It's more of an ends justify the means thing, for sure.
Yeah. Well, so this is kind of switching a little bit what we were just saying, but do you outline your books before you get started?
I do not. Mine are written. I don't know anything that's going to happen in the book at all. I just sit down and start writing. And I don't know the end. I don't know who all the characters are. I don't know anything. So each chapter is written. It's written in order, and the order typically never has so far has never changed. The first chapter I write has always been the first chapter. It has remained the first chapter in every book, because that's when the first decisions are made. So I decide what perspective it's coming from. I decide who some of the side characters are. I put them in a scenario. The opening chapter of For Your Own Good is Teddy Crutcher talking to Zach Ward's father in after school in the evening. And so that set up already that there was a battle for Zach, and that Zach was the center of this thing between Teddy and Zach's father. So, and I just go from there. And each day I write about a chapter a day. I write every day. And I think about it during the day, and the next scene sort of comes to me, and I go through a variety of scenarios in my head and land on the one that feels right. And the next morning I get up and write that chapter. And then I go. And then if I change something, or if I get to a twist that works or doesn't work, I go back and I revise as I go. So by the time I finish a first draft, it's actually a revised first draft.
Wow. So like going in, did you know who the killer was and all of it? Did you kind of have those things like in your head, or were you solving the mystery as we were?
I knew when I started writing, I wanted to write about a bad teacher. And that's what I knew. I knew he would not be a sexual predator. I didn't want to get into that. And that's more typical of what's out there, are teachers who are preying on students in a sexual way. And that was not, I wanted to write about what happens when a teacher is a psychopath. Because psychopaths, we don't know they're psychopaths until they either get arrested or they do something terrible. So they can fool you. They're very charming and they're very intelligent. And so what kind of an impact on students does it have when you have a psychopath teaching them? I wanted to explore that, because all of my books at one level or another, either in the main storyline or in the subplot, have an element of how adults affect kids. Mm-hmm. So in My Lovely Wife, they have teenage children. My second book, he started it, was about adult siblings who had some a whole family background that goes back to their parents and their grandfather. So at some level, there's always something about how do adults affect kids. This one is more direct. And in this one, we actually have the point of view of Zach. So you see how he's affected. and his reactions to Teddy.
And I really love what you do with Zach in this one too, because you don't make him, okay, I have to say, the way that adults write teenagers as a teenager can be so infuriating sometimes. And this, I was like, oh, okay, he's not exclusively like being a bad kid or something. He's still trying to get good grades. He's still having friends. He has a life, but he's also trying to juggle this and like seeing that perspective. I was so happy that was in there and like done well, because I've read a lot of books that were not done well like that. Yeah. And
I was just going to say, my thought on being in high school, the way I look at being in high school is your whole life in high school is based around navigating around what everybody else wants you to be. Mm-hmm. So you're navigating around all the adults, all of whom want you to be something different at any given time. Your teacher, your parent, your coaches. You have to be a certain person in front of them. And you're learning how to do that the same way we do as adults. You have to be a certain person in front of your boss, which is a different person that you are in front of your mom, which is a different person you are in front of your spouse in life. So you're learning how to do that in high school. You're learning how to adapt to the authority figures in your life. And at the same time, you're dealing with peer pressure. So you have to be that person too. So I just saw Zach as just in constant navigation mode, like he's in a maze all the time.
And I also, another thing that I loved about how he was characterized is his interactions with Courtney, because it was not anything like, I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm not going to, you know what I'm talking about. I love the ending with them, and I felt like that was earned, but I loved the beginning too, the fact that you didn't feel any sort of, like they were allowed to just be close friends. And I really liked that, because I feel like that is not placed anywhere ever. And then if there's any sort of romantic anything with teenagers, it's usually unearned, or it's, because they are a guy and a girl that are friends. But like here, they actually had a close friendship and had something that made sense for what happened. I'm trying to be as vague as possible, but
they definitely went through a lot together. They grew up together. Zach was really fun to write because he is a wealthy, entitled kid, privileged, and there's an element of that in it. There's an element of confidence he has from that. He's also self-aware. He absolutely knows how entitled he is. He knows how wealthy he is, and he knows how to use it to his advantage. So I think the fact that he is aware of his position in life makes him infinitely more likable than someone who is clueless and thinks everybody is like them. So he knows everybody is not like him. So it made him, to me at least, in writing him, he's that guy you want to hate, but you can't help but like.
Yes.
Because he's just nice.
That is the perfect description of him.
You really want to hate Zach for all that he has, but he personally is impossible to hate. So
yeah. And I honestly, even though, as we were saying, Teddy Crutcher is very much a sociopath, I still didn't hate him. I was still like, he's got his own things going on. He's dealing with his own grief and like has his own story. Like, none of these people or none of these characters in it I actively hated, even though most of them are doing illegal stuff and murders and all of this stuff. I'm like, I still enjoyed reading them, and I still wanted to like have a conversation with some of them.
That's good. That's good. That's the goal.
Yeah.
I don't want somebody, there's a lot of debate, at least among writers and readers, about likable versus unlikable characters. And people say they don't like unlikable characters, or some people say they don't like unlikable characters. They don't want to read them. I disagree with the entire argument completely. I don't care whether characters are unlikable or likable, and I don't think readers really do. I think they want a character that's compelling.
They want,
period.
Yeah, at least for me, I want a character that's lovable, that like I can kind of see in there. And then like, oh, I understand what you're going through. I can like see how your brain is working. I can still like elements of what you're doing. I still don't want to like be your buddy. You're still
right.
unlikable, but I think that's my favorite when it's like, oh, you're so lovable as a character from over here.
Sure. I mean, Hannibal Lecter is a horrible character and you don't want to have dinner with him, but you read the book. Or Patrick Bateman from American Psycho, or Amy and Nick from Gone Girl. I mean, these are not likable people, but they're absolutely compelling and you want to know what happens. So you turn the page.
Mm-hmm. Or even most characters on like sitcoms too
Mm-hmm.
is something that I realized lately. I'm like, most characters there are so wildly unlikable, but you still watch them because they're compelling or lovable.
Yes.
And there's still like that specific element that like draws you in.
Exactly.
Yeah. So kind of pivoting now, can you share any tips about writing thrillers or just writing in general?
Well, first of all, you have to love it. If you don't love to sit down and be with the page, alone with the page, don't do it. I mean, there's a million other hobbies out there to pick up. There's a million other ways to express yourself. So writing is something like any craft, takes a long time to, I wrote 11 books before I was published with my 12th. So I did not study writing. I don't have a background in studying it, or taking any classes in it. So mine was just learn as you go. So if you don't love it and you actively avoid doing it, it may not be the thing for you. I would say, first of all, the best thing I can say is always to read and write. I mean, that's how you're going to get better. I write even today, I write far more than is ever published. I write things and throw them out. I write the first 20,000 words of a book and decide I don't like it and I throw it out. I have written over the past year over 100,000 words that I have thrown out completely and have not made it into a book. And that's all practice. That's all just part of getting it right. So you have to, I get up and write every day, whether I'm in the middle of a book or not. It may be at the start of the next book. It may be something I'm just exploring. It may even be a different genre just for fun, but I write every single morning. So you have to love it that much to be able to do it. And if you just want to write a book and think that's the book you're going to get published, it very rarely happens for anybody on their first.
Wow. 11 books before. Wow. Do you think any of those books will see the light of day ever?
No, I don't even have a lot of them anymore. They're so old. The only full book I have is the one I wrote right before My Lovely Wife, and it's not a thriller, so it won't be. Right now, I write as per contract, I write only thrillers right now. All my books have to be thrillers.
Wow. That really is great advice. And as a writer too, I know I definitely have not only struggled with this. I know a lot of my friends and like a lot of people on the show have talked about this before too, the perfectionism that comes along with it. Like, but that really is great advice. Just sit down and do it every day and throw stuff out.
I mean, I look forward to it. I look forward to getting up and writing because I love it. So there are times when it's obviously frustrating. There are times when I definitely hate what I've written, but I love the act of writing.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. That's really great. And I've loved having you on. This was so much fun.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
I just have one final question, and that is, what do you have coming up?
I'm working on my next book on book 4, but I don't have any details yet. So the For Your Own Good was optioned for TV. That news just came out. Robert Downey Jr. and Greg Berlanti optioned it for HBO Max. So Yeah. So
I will be the first one watching that. I love this book so much. Everyone, please go read this book. Please go read and then watch the show.
And so hopefully that literally just happened. It just got announced in the last couple of weeks in the news. So
congratulations.
That's awesome.
That's really big. Like,
I'm very excited about it. I never thought I would say Robert Downey Jr. in association with any of my books ever, but there it is.
Wow, that's really amazing. And you know what? You deserve every ounce of it. Like this book is so exceptional.
Thank you.
That's really incredible.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. This is great.
Of course. Thank you for coming on. For Read Between the Lines, my name is Molly Southgate. I'm
Samantha Downing.
Let's end this the way all great stories end. Happily ever after. The end.
Thank you for listening to Read Between the Lines, a book podcast. This episode is hosted by Molly Southgate. It is edited by Rob Southgate and produced by Southgate Media Group. You can get in touch with the show at readbetweenthelines@gmail.com, or you can send us a voicemail at 708-887-9473. That was 708-887-9473. You can also find us on Instagram at Read Between the Lines Podcast. Thank you so much for listening.